The story of the Titanic has been debated over and over by people around the world. And while the most popular rendition of the shipwreck in mainstream media is James Cameron's movie from 1997, the film is not historically accurate, Cameron making a lot of artistic changes. Now, a company called Immersive VR Education wants to give us another perspective on the events in the form of a diving simulator called Titanic VR, an edutainment game at heart. This is TechTheLead Reviews. Stay tuned and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more gaming and tech news. The version of Titanic VR that I had on hand was made for the PlayStation VR, the platform being well suited to the experience because the game is not a room-scale experience by any chance. The campaign part of the game consists of two gameplay styles, one at the helm of a submarine, exploring the remains of the Titanic, and one in a lab, where the player is examining the objects recovered from the missions. This part of the game is mostly fictional, putting you in the shoes of Dr. Ethan Lynch, a professor of maritime archaeology who gets funding for a few dives to the ocean floor to search for new clues about the Titanic pre-collision. The handful of missions are not really diverse, requiring the player to steer a slow-moving submarine and use a remote-controlled drone called the Predator ROV to explore the inside of the Titanic, while documenting via photographs or video recording. The campaign is not especially long, with about 3 or 4 hours of content in total. During this time, you get familiar with Dr. Lynch's assistant, Gene Robinson, and Gillian Vanderveer, the woman who is funding the expedition. While Mrs. Vanderveer is only presented via a Skype-style screen, Robinson is the only fully modeled human in the campaign. Her looks, animation, and the overall voice acting in the game are quite low quality, a far cry from the mid and big-budget productions we see in gaming nowadays. It's also quite obvious that Titanic VR was made by a team of people who wanted to educate first and foremost. You'll spend a lot of time in the submarine with only a small round window as viewfinder. While underwater, Dr. Lynch talks about the Titanic with Gene Robinson, these moments being used by the developers as info dumps on the ship, connecting the mission objectives with real-world people and events from more than 100 years ago. There are also real-life recordings of the survivors of the shipwreck playing at some key moments. This is a good idea, but it may be hard to keep track of every person mentioned. There is a narrative connecting each dive, but each is treated as a separate event, and you'll even bump into James Cameron in one mission there called Mr. Ocean. He's quite the character, and I won't spoil more than that. We already established that the game takes place in the dark depths of the ocean, but the game really is a bit too dark. We know the PlayStation VR headset screen is lower resolution than the PC-oriented Oculus Rift and HTC Vive, so you'll see less detail, making it extremely likely to get lost while exploring the ship. There are also bugs I encountered along the way, like the ROV light would disappear at random, or a scary fish that would stand idly by instead of acting like it's supposed to. From a technical viewpoint, the game should render much higher resolution, especially on the PS4 Pro version, as we've seen in other PSVR games. Overall, only the most hardcore of the Titanic fans will ultimately enjoy the campaign. The others could opt for something more authentic. There is the mode called Experience, which features a 360-degree animation of the final moments of the Titanic, based on information provided by eyewitnesses. This short, non-interactive experience is interesting to see, and is a highlight of the package, only because you get to see the actual sinking from the perspective of a survivor. The experience also includes 2 guided tours of the wreck, a short one and a long one, each offering information about the ship, crew, and some important passengers. You can't pause the tours, and when you press the triangle button, you're automatically sent to the main menu with no prompt asking you if you want to exit. There are no checkpoints, so be careful. When transitioning between the drone and the submarine, your position might get reset somewhere below the pilot's chair. If that happens, just long press the option button on the controller to reset the VR calibration. Finally, we have a free roam mode, where you can freely explore the 2 halves of the ship. There are no objectives, but it's a good feature for players who don't want to sit through the campaign missions again. To be honest, a tour of the ship in its undamaged form would have been a great addition to Titanic VR, along with the possibility of seeing the wreck with the lights turned on. A library of audio recordings with selectable tracks would have also helped, but probably most of those are under license and hard to secure for a video game. I'm not going to lie, I've come out of this experience knowing more about the Titanic than when I started playing, but the experiences could be made more enjoyable in the future. Titanic VR is better suited to people who are already fascinated with the story and know a lot more about it than the gamer crowd that would probably prefer something like a Hollywood movie in virtual interactive form. Hit that subscribe button and check out our YouTube channel for more content like this. You can also check TechTheLead.com for all the best and the latest gaming and tech news.